Good afternoon, everyone. I am blessed to be here in episode 655 episodes. You can tell by the gray in all of our hair and facial hair that we've been around for 655 episodes, to say the least. But we are blessed to be here in office hours with two of my mentors, two extraordinary individuals giving back to our community every single day. Blaine Bartlett, the double B, blainebartlett.com. He has helped me move my possibilities ever since I've lost everything into a reality, making more money, helping more people, and having more fun. And by the way, thanks to Blaine and his wife, Cynthia, I want to thank the Aspire crew last night. I think we set a new record for raising even more money for the Unstoppable Foundation, which, by the way, Rhett Power also supports and shows up to multiple occasions to help facilitate and to donate to the Unstoppable Foundation. Rhett Powers is at rhettpower.com. And we are all three very excited about Saturday because we are going to be announcing the launching, I should say, of the biggest personal and professional legacy deal of my life with the Napoleon Hill Institute. Napoleon Hill has changed not only all three of our lives with the content that has been created over 100 years ago, but talk about the lineage, the legacy, the people that we learned from. Obviously, we weren't around, maybe Blaine, to meet Napoleon Hill, but we certainly were here for people like Bob Proctor and many of our other mentors that co-created much of their content with Napoleon Hill and derive such power, no pun intended, Rhett, from what still is incredible guidance, mentorship, and teachings. And so we'll be at the archives on Saturday at the Napoleon Hill Institute, and we have a huge announcement, and you will be seeing a lot more from Blaine Bartlett and Rhett Power as chancellors of the Institute, and helping corporations around the world facilitate what they currently do today under the Napoleon Hill umbrella. So you can't even imagine how excited I am, coming off Aspire last night, helping the charity, and looking forward to a mastermind tomorrow with Bedros, and then on the red eye into Virginia, the archives, Wise, Virginia, to do that. Now, we've set the stage. It is time to bring JT on. He's waiting in the wings. That's Joel Thomas, president of Stratos Jet Charters. I've been blessed to be around private aviation since I was 25. So I've experienced in all aspects of it, including representing at Lee Steinberg, multiple deals with multiple private aviation companies. And when I found out Stratos had a new idea along the way, a new franchise program, I was extremely interested and curious on the newest way to help people make money, because I will tell you, as a profit center, private aviation is one of the greatest profit centers that I've utilized in a multitude of ways. So very curious, Joel. Welcome to Office Hours. Let's talk about private aviation, and where was the need for this new franchise program that you guys have created?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's an honor to be here, so I'm grateful to be in your presence. And as far as starting in private aviation at 25, that was about the age I was when I started Stratos Jets. 43 now, so 18 years of experience, and beginning to get some gray hairs as well.
Well, then welcome. Do you know you know who Napoleon Hill is?
I've heard the name for sure. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, we'll get you Think and Grow Rich to get you started. It'll be a great book for all of you and your clients.
Perfect. Well, thank you. With regard to the new model, ultimately, it's a genesis of seeing the industry. There's great divergence. You can Google search and find a lot of different companies that do what we do, which is a charter broker. We don't own or operate the aircraft. We represent the clients, helping them make an informed buying decision. So there's an enormous amount of companies out there. I don't know how many, maybe 3,000 or so that do what we do, but the majority of them are individuals with a laptop, a cell phone, and a website. And so people are making pretty large purchase decisions with companies that don't really have an investment in infrastructure or an aviation background. And having talked to, I mean, obviously buying and selling, tens of millions of dollars in annual revenue, we have great relationships with their carriers. And having talked to them, they've indicated that there's a lot of risk for them to book a charter for a little known charter broker, and every single one of them does something different. And so we had the opportunity to, from a sense of creating value, we built in 2019. I launched the air charter marketplace we call Stratos FMS, and it's standardized. It's basically a SaaS product for what we do in the industry that has a human element involved. And so this technology platform allowed us to standardize the customer journey. But since we're a broker, we sit in between the customer and the air carrier. So we also provide an excellent coordination experience that simplifies the workload for the air carrier. So anyhow, we got the idea that, as we were trying to grow, we got the idea that there's a lot of companies that don't have the necessary infrastructure or buying power to be able to support these clients' needs. And we happen to have the resources. We are a large national firm, and we happen to have the resources available to us to make our technology platform and our back-end professionalism and expertise available to smaller charter brokers initially. And so that was kind of the genesis of the idea, was how can we help to aggregate, provide the resources necessary and aggregate the dollars to help make the industry more efficient.
Yeah, I've been a private pilot since the early 70s, an aerobatic pilot. I've got flown jumpers. I've got a glider ticket. So aviation, I love it, particularly when I can get my hands on it. So what you're doing, Joel, and I'm talking here in the context of efficiencies. What is the key efficiency benchmark that you're paying attention to or that actually you would bring to a charter company that they can say this was worth and this was different than what I could have gotten elsewhere?
Sure. Well, we're the only franchise model out there, and I think what we bring to the table is what's different. Essentially, when you're a charter broker, you have 5 things that you do. You find the client, find the airplane, organize the flight, make sure it goes well, and you deal with payments. So the model, the franchise model we established, does everything after the sale. We let them they own their own franchise, so they have their own client books. They own their own clients. They manage the sales aspect, the relationship aspect of the transaction, and we do everything after the sale.
Got it.
And so when someone buys a franchise, our model, it's pretty unique because you have an upfront initial franchise fee, but after that, there's no ongoing fixed cost. It's a pay per transaction use. So you have access to these resources without any fixed costs. And the technology platform that we do, as I mentioned, it's a SaaS product. Essentially, it's a full suite of services that allows a broker to take access to Stratos FMS, their own instance, and gain access to everything they need to do their job well, as well as to coordinate with us, to our back-end support team, the home office, to be able to provide the high-touch coordination and organization experience, and delivering that both to the operator and the customer.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Unmute yourself, Rhett Power. Now we're proving our age, or we're just proving our technological.
I was just wondering if I was losing my hearing. I wasn't sure.
There we go. Hey.
Welcome to our world, Rhett. Thank you for joining us.
So I knew I loved you, Blaine. I really did, because I'm a pilot as well. So we need to go flying, my friend.
No,
I
you
love
need to
that.
take me somewhere. You got to fly.
Take you somewhere.
Joel, you said something earlier that I think is really important that I want you to highlight, and that is not forgetting the human element of this. And I mean, all the technology and is great, but how do you train your team to interact with the client? Like, what is your mandate from your team and how they interact with the client? What do you expect?
This is a great question, and I'm really happy to answer. One of the things that really mattered to me has been to honor God in our interactions, not just with our clients, but with their air carriers and then everybody on our team. And I'm a God guy. I was about 23 when I gave my life to Christ, and I had an existential crisis. What am I going to do with my life around 25? And I started Stratos. And so it's really important to me that, the reputation we've built over the last nearly 20 years is a very good one within the industry. Every air carrier has a tremendous amount of respect for how we interact and operate. And I'm super grateful to be in that position. So it's important for me to make sure that people adopt that same mindset. So we established very clear training guidelines to help our agency owners to produce salespeople who know the industry very well, so that they can recommend and book flights with an air carrier's hat on, or even a pilot's hat. So we've really spent a lot of time and energy building out the knowledge base, and we actually created what we call Stratos Sky Guide AI, which is a little chatbot language learning model that takes everything that Joel has ever learned about this business and documented over the years and makes it accessible by an instant query. But the human element, as far as interacting with customers, I mean, our focus is really to help a client make an informed buying decision. And that means that we're doing due diligence on the front end. Stratos, the franchisor, the home office, focuses on maintaining the approved vendor program to ensure that every aircraft that's quoted within our system, it has a flawless operational history, has crew that can meet extremely high standards, about 300% of what's required by minimum standards in the industry. So we're 300% greater than that. So it's really a wonderful situation because our technology platform standardizes how they work, and they get to focus on managing the relationships. So we're pretty not picky, I would say, but we're pretty intentional about the people who we are franchising with. We obviously want to help people in the industry who have an opportunity, to give them an opportunity to build their own business, to scale something. And but we want to make sure that they do it in a way that glorifies God, which is my founding mission.
I love that. And it's wisdom and faith that allows us to build not only our personal, but our professional lives by understanding without the purpose, the pain will win. And one of our great friends, Cynthia Kersey, always says, as long as your purpose is greater than your pain, you'll be fine. And without faith, your purpose cannot be greater than the pain that we will survive and endure and grow from. Joel Thomas leading the way with Flight and Faith. If you're interested in the newest, best way to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun, private aviation and Stratos are the way to go. Just check him out. And I believe we just go to stratosjets.com and we can find more information and contact Joel directly. He is a man of faith and customer service, which go hand in hand. Joel, absolutely. Please come back and join us. We'd love to have you at more of our events to elevate the awareness to your unique franchising program. And of course, the message of why you have such a great business and have continued to succeed. Thanks so much, Joel. We'll have you back.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. Appreciate you. Good man. All right. Mitch has been here. I love people that show up early. Mitch is waiting in the wings. Mitch Warner, he's the managing partner at Arbinger Institute. And it's an institute, once again, relative to what we're doing with Napoleon Hill, the Institute's leadership and self-deception. And we're going to talk about the secret to transforming relationships and unleashing our potential, meaning unleashing results. Welcome, Mitch, to episode 655 of Office Hours.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here with all three of you. This is going to be fun.
Great to have you, because you probably have two of the world's leading experts in your subject matter and expertise yourself, with the Institute's leadership in self-deception, that 4th edition, and these secrets that you're talking about. So my two friends have much more experience in this space, but I was just curious, when we talk about secrets and unleashing these results, what is one of the secrets in relationships that is, I guess, dissolving the limitation that we put upon ourselves according to relationships? That we must be interfering with ourselves or limiting ourselves in some way in our relationships. And I imagine when we do it personally, it carries over professionally as well.
Oh yeah, well, we're one person, right? So who I am at work is who I am at home.
Most of us. Some
Yes.
people are too, but yes.
That's true, most of us. But look, I mean, you ask what is it? What's the thing that's getting in the way of our relationships and results? We call it leadership and self-deception, because we can try to lead, but to the degree that we're not telling ourselves the truth, to the degree that we're deceiving ourselves, then we're going to get stuck every time. And it doesn't matter what we do, at the level of behavior. What types of behavior we might lay on top of a self-deceived mindset, we won't ever make any traction. So that's really the secret that we're getting at in that book, is that, hey, the degree to which I can tell myself the truth is the degree to which I can unlock the potential inside of my relationships and achieve the results that I want, whether that's at work or at home.
I Mitch, when I saw your name come up on the prompt for the show today, I was going, Arbinger, you're kidding me. Really? I first came across Leadership and Self-Deception, the 1st edition when it came out. Yeah. And I cannot tell you how many of those copies I have given away to clients over the years. Just a phenomenal book. And it was actually a seed to a program I ended up developing with Harvard that is now part of the American Association for Physician Leadership's curriculum on authentic leadership.
Yeah.
And the whole premise is, the Oracle of Delphi, know thyself. So how honest am I willing to be with me? Yes. Would I follow the guy that I'm looking at in the mirror? Sort of a question. Yeah. Now, this is the 4th edition. And I mean, the client list is NASA, the Army, Citrix. I mean, there's just a pretty stellar group of folks here that have said this actually is good stuff. Yeah. Not just good stuff, it's practical.
Yeah.
What has been for you probably the greatest surprise that you've stumbled on as people have actually taken this and actually integrated it into the work that they're doing in their organizations?
Yeah, well, there's two things that I'm constantly surprised by, Blaine, and I'm surprised that I keep getting surprised by it. When you go into an organization, and it doesn't matter how many organizations you work with, there's always like, wow, this organization, they've got to be incredibly sophisticated. Look at their market position, look at their reputation, look at their brand. So you walk in and there's, you can have a little sense of, imposter syndrome walking into a room, and you can think, maybe their problems are going to be more sophisticated than we've come across before. And then you get into it and you realize, like, oh, wow. Like the problems here are just the basic human problems. I remember I was with the team that runs the International Space Station at NASA. We get about 4 hours into this, and these are, PhDs, scientists. And I had asked them before, like, tell me the science to get these rockets up into the atmosphere, going at the exact same speed, thousands of miles an hour to dock with this space station. I mean, the science has got to be incredibly tricky, and you're doing this all the time. I said, what's harder, the science of that or the people problems that you're dealing with, like right here on the ground? And they're like, oh, no question, it's the people problems.
Yeah.
And if we can get the people problems sorted, the science is actually pretty straightforward. It's this people dynamic that's so hard to figure out. So yeah, that surprises me every time. And then the other thing that surprises me is just, you got people and they come in and they're resistant, and you think this person's never going to change. And then sure enough, it's like, wow, anybody can change when they just see the world and themselves differently.
So Mitch, I guarantee you somebody's sitting here right now saying, you know what? I've been lying to myself. And I know it's been hurting my relationships. It's been hurting my ability to lead. What is the first step that when you get to that realization?
Yeah.
What's next? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, that's such a good question, Rhett. Look, I think there's two basic approaches people try to take. One is, okay, that I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to change myself. And usually that looks like I'm going to behave differently than I behaved in the past. And the problem with that approach is that it still keeps me focused on me. I'm the project. And so in this very insidious way, it keeps me in the self-focused place that got me into the problem in the first place. And so as counterintuitive as it seems, when I realize that I've been lying to myself, what I'm really lying to myself about is the reality of the people in my life. I've told myself a story about, how problematic they are and how much they are to blame for this problem. What I'm not seeing in that whole story is them. And so rather than work on yourself, what I see for me and for the people that I work with that's more effective is just go get really, really curious about this other person that you've been in this self-deceptive relationship with. Go figure out what's life like for them. Go get really curious. Just meet to learn with that person. And in particular, get really curious about, I wonder what life must be like for them to have to live and work with someone like me. And that level of curiosity gets you so far out of yourself that then you can see things to do. But if it's just like, I got to change, I've been lying to myself, you're going to get stuck every time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, not to get political, but I had experience as a young executive on a board of directors with a certain Donald Trump who was having difficulty getting along with every other board member. And they suggested that he received psychological therapy so that he could get along with everyone. And his response was quite simply, F them. Why don't they each go get therapy on how to get along with me? And so there are certain people and certain tendencies that seem to be ignoring the obvious, is that if you want to make that change, you got to change what you see in the mirror. You can't find outside of you what you don't find inside of you. And it's people like Mitch Warner and Arbinger who's been doing it for as long as Blaine has been alive, helping other people find the secrets to success by self-analysis and awareness. Arbinger.com, the 4th edition. Check it out. It's time-tested like Napoleon Hill and guaranteed to allow you to get to a better place with a better situation, better ideas, and better people. I promise you, when you love yourself, it's easy to love others as well. Mitch Warner, please promise us you'll come back on. We have many other shows. I'm sure my two friends would love to have you on their shows. And anything we can do with the Napoleon Hill Institute, we'd love to work with Arbinger as well and help facilitate another great tool for leadership and the perception of self-deception. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, friends.
Thanks, man.
Very good. He has a career in newscast as well, by the way. He very professional. I love that.
Yeah, he's an
more
artist.
People have real studios, not us three, but like real people. Anyway, I love the new.
Hey, your closet has always worked.
New era of media. We're opening another new studio, so I'm going to have a pretty background sometimes for office hours, as we just are opening November 1st with Meltzer Studios and Napoleon Hill Institute, a studio right by Santa Ana Airport in Orange County. So a podcast studio, mastermind center, right south of our other one is SoFi Stadium. So a lot of great things happening with my two partners, BlaineBartlett.com and Rhett at RhettPower.com. All right. We love Bart's, and now Bart is here with us. Zanuski is here, the co-founder of Dad Gang Company. I love that, the Dad Gang Co-hats. Welcome. That's a killer hat that you have, by the way, Bart. Thanks for
Thank you. Yeah, you guys hear me okay?
We can see you even better, but we hear you okay. No, we hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, good to be on. David, I think I'm not quite sure, but I think way back in the day, well, not way back, but when the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis, we might have met at Gary V's event back
Yes.
then when I was working for a sock company as a VP of marketing, and so we've
Oh,
met
right.
before. But it's so
I'm a
cool to be
huge
on
sock
today.
guy, so I definitely have worked with Happy Socks and many other sock companies, but we definitely did, and that was one of the colder Super Bowls. I remember I had to
Oh my
leave
goodness!
on after Gary's party early on Sunday morning. I was leaving, and I think it was the Maxim party or something. I drove by negative 20 degrees, and there were women in line to get into a party at like 4 a.m. With no jacket and outfits that I would be yelling and screaming at my daughters for wearing. But yes, that was the new stadium in Minnesota and extremely cold. And I definitely needed probably your socks. So good to see you again. Well, you're in the right place because this is a dad gang that you're talking to, the casual dads. We have more kids than most people between us and grandkids, some of us, right, Blaine?
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the gang because community today is for me the forefront of anything I'm trying to do, let alone anything that celebrates fatherhood. I always say we need to work on the dads of the world, and you know need a license to fish, but anybody can be a dad. And if we're in a community to support one another, only good things will happen. And to identify with your hat company in this casual club of dads in this unique community, what was your motivation to move from socks into building a community, and why hats to help signify the energy and the frequency of that neighborhood?
Yeah, I had been working in like direct to consumer and e-commerce for well over 12 years or so, and had kind of bounced around. After the sock company, I went to an agency and oversaw the growth of 30 different brands in 2 years. It was insane. No one person should do that. But no, through bouncing around and having kids and just having a strong friend group of two other buddies that were kind of like sharing each other's daily lives and not only the wins but kind of the struggles of being new dads, or dealing with work and dealing with the day, and just trying to be a great man, a great father. We've kind of we're looking around on social media and noticed that there really wasn't anything for dads that wasn't kind of goofy or funny or mowing the lawn or Air Monarch shoes. We're just kind of like, man, our lives that we're sharing with each other are not just these funny dad jokes online. We need something that represents, fatherhood for everything that it is, the good, the not so good, and everything in between. And so we were always saying the term dad gang in our text thread. Like, say if David, you and I were talking and I shared to you, like, I had a really tough day, and you're like, hey man, you got this, dad gang. And so after a while, it was just kind of like, man, we should throw that on a hat, because hats are kind of walking billboards. You don't have to wash them. They're easy to ship. They're something you can toss on your way out of the house if you're having a bad hair day, whatever. Like, hats are just universal, and dads wear them all the time. And so let's try a hat. And we started with 100 hats out of my tiny garage that couldn't even fit one of those smart cars in it. I don't know why we had a garage. It couldn't fit any cars in it. So my wife and I, she was pregnant with our second child, and we were just packing orders in the garage. But yeah, hats just kind of seemed like, hey, if we're going to try something, let's just start with some hats and see if people want them. And out the gate, a lot of friends and family purchased them, but it wasn't a massive business idea whatsoever. At first, it was just kind of like, hey, we're saying this term all the time. Why don't we just make some hats that we can wear?
Well, yeah, I'm intrigued here for a couple of reasons, Bart. First of all, you live in Bonnie Lake, which is just down the road from me. I'm up on Whidbey Island.
Oh, no way! Awesome.
And I used to own some property in the Bonnie Lake area. And folks, if you haven't heard of Bonnie Lake, it's right at the base of Mount Rainier. It's just a gorgeous location. It truly is.
Yeah.
And there's the and on this. The idea of a dad gang. And this is an entrepreneurial question. I think the idea in part has to do with affiliation, just
Mhm.
kind of creating a community. I want to hang with some folks that I kind of like hanging around, the common interest. But then you have to look at the monetization question. So what was that leap between from this is a good idea to just kind of sit around and schmooze with people that kind of have the same interest I do, and they've got kids and I've got kids, and isn't that great? And we can commiserate. But how do I monetize this so that it becomes
Right.
something that is that supports my family? Yeah, I guess I'll
Yeah.
just kind of cut the chase on it. What was the leap that was made there, and how do you actually monetize?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you actually monetize an idea amongst buddies? And for us, it's not that professional of an answer. For us, at first, it was like, hey, let's just keep going. It wasn't a like. At first, we got 100 friends and family to buy some hats, right? And a lot of the time, you can get really excited about that and say, hey, we have a business. But the three of us, Grant, EJ, and myself, we had been in e-commerce and this industry for a while to know that 100 friends and family supporting you is almost a favor, right? So don't get too excited. But we did it again, and it was a bit more friends and family, but then we noticed there were some strangers coming into the Shopify orders that we hadn't seen before. And so we're like, okay, well, there was a little less few family members in those orders. So let's just take that money from what we made on these hats and make some more hats. So from 100 to 300%. And then it started getting to the point where like, hey, we don't know any of these people ordering our hats. But every time we would make a hat or make a batch of hats, they would sell out pretty quickly. And then we have this period of manufacturing more hats, and people wouldn't be able to buy them again. And these customers or potential customers are just sitting there so angry. Like, I've seen these hats, I want them, but they're sold out every single time. And we're like, okay, guys, I think we have to keep doing this. That was kind of the realization behind all of it, was like the community behind Dad Gang. And we have If You Know, You Know on the side of our hats also, just kind of like, if you are a father, then you know what other fathers are going through. And I think that community aspect of, I'm going to wear this hat, and if I see another dad with it, we can give each other the head nod, and we're kind of going through similar things. And so it didn't go from, hey, this is going well, let's start a business. It almost went from, hey, these strangers are buying our hats and we have to keep going for them because this means a lot more to them than we thought it would initially. And then they're like, okay, well, I guess we got to make different colors. I guess we got to make different styles. And the fact that customers kept coming back to buy a tan hat versus a black one, there were just these new realizations over and over again that were like, okay, yeah, I guess we have a business here, and I guess we should probably lean into it. So EJ and Grant and myself, we all had full-time jobs while building this. And Grant stepped away first. He was like, okay, well, I'm ready to go all in. Then I was still the head of marketing at a supplement company for pretty much until, I don't know, January of this year. And then EJ is still at his full-time job. So, but he's just a robot. This guy can just do everything all the time. And so we've made the leap from our full-time jobs into Dad Gang pretty much this year and a little bit last year, to the point where we're like, okay, this community is so strong now. We have a private group of 10,000 dads that just talk about fatherhood. We have 200,000 followers on Instagram. We have 50,000 on TikTok. And so it's getting to the point where it's like, if we don't keep this going, if we don't lean into this and serve this community, then we're doing a disservice to like this deeper meaning, deeper movement of what is established.
That's phenomenal. Rhett, I hate to cut you off, but I got to stay on schedule today. And we will have you back, Bart, as well. And we have other shows.
No worries.
We are part of the Dad Gang, and I don't think we need to, but we're going to tell all these dads out here that are part of our community of millions of dads, dadgang.co, at dadgang.co. Check it out. and get yourself any color hat that you want in order to signify a community of people, a neighborhood, a frequency. And there needs to be more organizations, because in its human nature, men don't feel as if they can share and they have community. We feel alone professionally and personally. And although we have similar challenges, a lot of times it's difficult to have someone to express them to. And it's nice to know without fear that we can share what it's like to be a dad and the challenges that we have and the pressures that we feel. The mindset, heart set, and handset can be cured simply by belonging. And sometimes we need to signify that, illustrate it by something that we wear, and might as well wear a super cool hat and give each other a nod when we walk by one another. Thanks, Bart, for helping us build our community. And we will have you back. I apologize, but I can't wait. Let too many people wait in the wings, or we won't get to episode 656. So thanks.
No, it's all good. I appreciate it.
You're right on. Thank you. I was going to say, we're getting so old, one of us may not be here next week, but I won't go there. We're very good. You never
Not
know.
that old.
I wasn't talking about you.
No.
I was talking about Rhett.
No.
Rhett's like
No.
20 years younger than you, and he looks older. I'm 20 years younger, and I look way older than both
Rough
of you.
living.
That's
Rough
why
living. Rough living.
Well, it's a great
Hey.
beard. If you shave that beard, you won't look like you're 51. All right. Anyways, speaking of 51, we have our last friend waiting in the wings patiently. Our green room was full today. Dov Barron is here, and he's an architect of emotional source code at Dov Barron International. Welcome, my friend, and what a great setup you have as well.
Cheers, David. Thank you so much. Blaine, good to see you, my friend. Rhett, nice to meet you. Always a pleasure, gents. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you're a well-renowned speaker, facilitator, a podcast host as well, and a best-selling author, but truly recognized as a leading authority on creating cultures, ironically, as we were talking to the Dad Gang, about belonging to a community. I was thanking our previous friend for being on here about building a community that's much needed for men. But in creating cultures, you actually have a course to help people to belong. And I know your subtitle here of staying curious. I was curious, no pun intended. In your course, what's the context of the course? Because it's such a broad subject matter of belonging. How do you put a context around the idea of belonging and creating a culture?
Thanks for asking. I think that there's no doubt, I don't think any of us have any doubt, that the world changed after COVID. And pre-COVID, we all were on the bus, we all went along with what it was, and we were told, get the right people on the right bus, on the right seats. And that was all about fitting in. And what we discovered was very quickly is that since we've come back from COVID, people are not interested in fitting in. They want to grow up as their whole selves, and that only can happen when we create cultures of belonging. So rather than this old style fitting in culture, we need to build cultures of belonging where people can bring all of their humanity, all of their spirituality, all of their political sense to an environment and not feel like, oh, I'm going to get rejected here, but I'm going to be accepted for all of who I am, whatever that might mean. Because when we do that, we bring our best. There's so much, when we think about this and look at the emotional source of human beings, we talk about that the center of that is our identity, whether that's as an organization, as a nation, or as an individual. I write the emotional source code for nations, for organizations, and for individuals. And in that identity, there's a side that is, we call the disenfranchised part. And the way to think about that is who were you not allowed to be in the environment you grew up in. So I grew up in a very tough ghetto environment. There was no room for me to be spiritual, artistic, or creative. That is who I am. But it's like, whoa, oh. And my mom thought my head was going to start spinning. She shipped me off to the rabbis because I was talking about spiritual stuff. I think she thought the green vomit was coming any moment now. So that was not allowed. So that became disenfranchised. I had to become other things. And it's these disenfranchised parts in a culture of belonging we get to bring in, and we get to show all of ourselves and the magnificence of who we are, far beyond the restriction of what it took to fit in by wearing the right khaki pants and a blue shirt. He says wearing a blue shirt.
Yeah.
Rhett, why don't you go? You missed out on the question with Bart.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is a fascinating topic, and I was talking to an HR manager the other day, and she was telling me how really hard it is today to manage people, and then because of the political tensions and the atmosphere that we're in, that creating that culture of belonging and acceptance is harder today than it's ever been. She said this is the hardest job she's ever had in terms of trying to help people communicate effectively and just be a team. What's your advice for someone like her that is really struggling with creating this culture that you're talking about?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think that part of the thing is that we've got to get over this idea that we can't talk about it, whatever it is. Right. So let's say you've got people on your team who are very Republican, Trumpian, and other people who are very left. How do you bring those people together? The key to it is always the same, is that if it's about those things, we're never going to come together. We're never, ever going to come together. So in a culture of belonging, the central piece of that is purpose. Why are we here? What is the good we want to do? What is the difference we want to make? Because if you take a hardcore Republican and a hardcore Democrat and you sit them down and say, listen, does family matter to you? The answer is yes. Right? Now, the approach is different, but the answer is yes. So when we get to the core of purpose inside of an organization, inside of a nation, when we get to the purpose of it, it's like, yeah, you know what? Your way of getting there might be different than my way of getting there, but this is what matters. And even though I want to punch you in the red hat, or I want to punch you in the blue hat, what I really want is for us to come together and make a difference. Let's do that. So that, to me, that's how we bring people together. And this is part of what we facilitate inside organizations, which is these kind of town halls, conversations that are about what do we have in common versus what do we have apart. And of course, it's very easy to be tribal right now. It's very easy to be polarized, but we all need to remember that it's latest research that has come about, and it's, I'm part of something called Starts With Us, which is looking about how to get away from polarization. The research shows us about 17% that are radically polarized. The 23%, the 83% are the rest of us who are the silent majority. We must speak up and talk about commonality rather than our polarization, rather than the separation. But of course, I know that doesn't sell ads, but it does sell culture. It does bring us together. It bonds hearts and minds and souls.
Yeah. And we've known each other for a while. You've got a model that I've always been fascinated by, and it's not the emotional source code; it's the anatomy of meaning model that you work with. What you've actually been kind of describing here a bit.
Yeah.
The kernel of that is what matters, just what matters at the end of the day. What matters. In the years that it took you to kind of get to where you're at right now, what was it that gestated in you that kind of gave birth to this notion of the anatomy of meaning? Because all behavior is meaning generated.
That's it.
All behavior is meaning generated. So being able to articulate that and actually kind of codify it, that takes some work. There's a heavy lift involved in that.
Only about 4. So nothing much. but the truth of the matter is, and you and I have talked about this, Blaine, that I can clearly remember being a kid living in this ghetto, surrounded by people who I thought were pretty intelligent, looking at my aunt, who was a very beautiful, well-dressed woman, dating new men who were the same guy with a new face. And I can remember working out when she's going, oh, he's wonderful, and he's going to treat me well. And I'm like, yeah, he's going to be hitting you anytime soon and taking your money, because that's what the guys you date work that out. And it was fascinating to me the way that people would interpret things based on the meaning they imposed on a thing. So when I look at that on a political level, one of the things I explain to people, and even a corporate level, is the person who controls the meaning controls the movement.
Mm-hmm.
People are going in the direction of the meaning it's given. So you say this about one political party, and everybody moves in that direction who's on your side, but you're not moving anybody on the other side because they have a completely different meaning. And so when we come together, we've got to find this cohesive meaning. And everybody, as you just said, Blaine, is formulating. Human beings are meaning-making machines. It's what we do. But the question is, we don't bother to question the meaning. And this is, you know, I was on a political show I was on a couple of days ago. You know, in this polarized world that we're living in right now, how do we bring peace? And I said, the answer, I'm sorry to say, is not as simple as you might think, but it's this. If we want world peace, we have to return to context, nuance, and curiosity. Not in that order. We have to become curious about the context and what is the nuance. So I'll give a simple example I think might help. I'm going to describe somebody, and I want you to tell me, just, it's okay, we're not, it doesn't matter right or wrong. Tell me whether you think they're more left or more right. Okay? Are we ready, gents? Good. Here's a guy. He grew up with a single mom. His single mom brought him up. So he's definitely influenced mostly by a woman. He wants to be an artist. He aspires to be an artist. He's vegetarian, aspiring to be vegan, and really pushes his friends to be vegetarian. And he loves animals. He loves animals. It can't bear cruelty to animals. Is he more left-leaning or more right-leaning?
Does he love to eat the animals, or does he love animals? It makes.
Well, he's a vegetarian. He loves animals, and he's a bordering vegan.
But he won't eat them. Okay, good. So that's obviously a left person.
His name is Adolf Hitler.
There you go. Back then, that's what the left was. So I get it.
No, but you see, that's an example. It's not about whether it was left or right. It's an example of where we've lost context and we don't pay attention to nuance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to go, well, this is a left person. Then I say, well, Adolf Hitler, is he a left or right? And you go, he's right. Well, hold on a second. Is it possible to be both? Yes, of course it is. Do I have some right-wing ideas? Probably. Do I have some left-wing ideas? Probably. So does everybody. And it's when we get into the nuance, when we get into the context, and we do it with curiosity, we find out what brings us together. And that's how we bond. That's how we create belonging. Because when you think about what trust is very simple. It's reciprocal vulnerability. I trust you because I know your shit. You trust me because you know my shit, and neither of us are willing to use it against each other. Polarization is using it against each other, so there's no trust. So in that mutual reciprocity, we get trust, love, and we build belonging communities.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Dov Baron, ahead of the rest, uniting us, learning and teaching us to derive purpose and then appreciate the differences according to the commonality of that purpose. You have to be more interested than interesting. That means to stay curious. If you want to learn more about how we can live within the context of a unified, abundant, infinite system of thought, it's people like Dov Baron that will help you, dovbaron.com. God promised us you'll come back. Obviously, already introduced through Blaine, but Rhett and I would love to do more with you as well. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining us on Office Hours.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure and an honor. I look forward to the next time we have a conversation. And Blaine, I'll see you very soon. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. You need more leaders like Dov. Thank you for joining us. All right, gentlemen, we went a little bit over, so in its briefest ways, we learned so much today. Rhett Power, what is your takeaway of the day?
Man, the dad gang and talking to Dov, the word belonging, and finding common ground, finding commonality. Those are the themes for me today.
Yeah, great takeaway. I love that, Rhett. I'm going to land on just real briefly here. Control the meaning, control the movement. I mean, yeah, all behaviors, organized around meaning making.
That was powerful. That was powerful.
And mine sits between both of yours, which is we talked about purpose, and our purpose being greater than our pain, our purpose carrying the meaning that we give anything, whether we find that purpose inside of us to reflect it outside of us as well. And one of the nuances or takeaways that I found to be quite brilliant was that we, by deriving a purpose and a commonality in the purpose, this is a cornerstone to appreciation. And specifically today, with the separation that exists and the interference in the unification that we desire, it is the meaning or the purpose that allows us to appreciate, to add value to one another. In other words, as Dov brilliantly put it, you know, to be vulnerable with our shit and not bring it up to separate us, but to forgive our shit and work towards a common purpose, which is what I try to do, which we will do under the umbrella of the Napoleon Hill Institute, as we will make a huge announcement on Saturday. BlaineBartlett.com, Rhett at RhettPower.com. I cannot wait to do more with you and appreciate more of your shit so you can appreciate my shit. Thank you both so much.
It don't smell.
It doesn't smell. My shit don't stink, brother.
Exactly.
All right. On that note, thank you, gentlemen, for episode 655. Can't get any better than that. All right, everyone, we got to rock and roll. We have a mastermind tomorrow. I'm back. I'm going to go see Miles play some football in about an hour after I do executive football talk with the amazing Mike Tannenbaum, the former GM of the Jets and the leading analyst at ESPN. We got a great show called Executive Football Talk on multiple channels, and then off to watch my son play football. But tomorrow we have a mastermind at our new studio in Orange County with Bedros and John Barrett. Come and see us for a content mastermind. Saturday at the Napoleon Hill Archives, and then to SoFi Stadium for another great content day with the amazing Dr. Sean Dill and Dr. Lacey Book. We are blessed to be here. If you want to join us, please email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Please get on the lookout for our Napoleon Hill Institute announcement on Saturday. If you can't keep up with me, I don't blame you. I can't keep up with myself. So I have a text community, 949-298-2905. That's how you will be alerted to what city, states, countries that we will be in. We do meetups. We do holding courts, VIP dinners, masterminds, speeches, interviews. If we're not doing it, then let me know what we should be doing by being more curious, which leads me to being more interested than interesting. Remember, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll check you out at episode 656 tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.